What if everyone suddenly had $1 billion? Do you think that will wipe out poverty from this world? That it will make everyone rich, happy, and stress-free? Then you are mistaken. And let me tell you, this idea has been tried more than once and ended badly. Imagine every citizen in the country becomes a billionaire, and the media can't stop talking about the miracle of the mint. But a week later, bread costs $10,000. Your rent is in the millions. But what happened? This is not science fiction. It's the all-too-real consequence of a government printing too much money. Even though the idea seems like magic, the truth is a lot more messier and often devastating. Let's keep it simple. Money is a tool. It lets us buy things, trade, and save. But money only works because we value it in exchange for goods and services. But what gives it that power? Nothing but trust. We believe a $10 bill has value because others will accept it in exchange for things we want. So here's the real question. If the government prints a ton of money, does that make everyone richer? When governments print more money without increasing the actual goods and services available in an economy, it will break that trust. Let's say there's an auction with 10 paintings and 10 bidders. Everyone has $100. Prices are normal. Now give everyone $10,000. Same paintings, same bidders. What happens? Prices go up, not because the art got better, but because there's more cash chasing the same stuff. And that's when inflation kicks in. Yes, a little inflation is okay. It's like your economy growing up a little each year. But when a country prints money like there is no tomorrow, it will turn into a double-sided sword called hyperinflation. Inflation is when prices rise over time, and a little of it is natural. A healthy economy often sees inflation of about 2% per year. But during hyperinflation, prices rise so fast that people literally cannot spend their money fast enough before it loses value. I will give you an example. When you are in an auction and the auctioneer gives everyone $10,000, do they get richer? The price of the commodity shoots up, not because it is worth more, but because people have more cash to throw around. And this is how inflation eats away at purchasing power. And if you're not getting paid more every day to keep up with rising costs, you're actually getting poorer. Take Germany in the 1920s. After losing World War I, they were deep in debt. Instead of raising taxes or cutting spending, the Weimar government decided to print more money. At first, it seemed to work until prices doubled every few days. A loaf of bread went from 250 marks to 200 billion marks in less than a year. By November 1923, the exchange rate was 4.2 trillion German marks to $1 US. Prices doubled every few days. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day just to keep up. People burned money for heat. Savings were wiped out. Trust in democracy collapsed. And out of the chaos, evils started to find their ground. The lesson was that hyperinflation doesn't just wreck economies, it destabilizes societies. The next stop was Zimbabwe in 2007. In the early 2000s, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe, under pressure, seized white-owned farms, distributing them to politically loyal but inexperienced farmers. That led to a collapse in agricultural production with less food and exports. This finally led to a spiral in the economy. After this collapse in food production and economic mismanagement, the government did what? Yes, you guessed it right, printed more money. By 2008, Zimbabwe's inflation rate hit 89.7 sextillion% per year. And at its peak, a loaf of bread cost 35 million Zimbabwean dollars in the morning. By evening, the price always used to double. People were paid in wheelbarrows of money, and banknotes came with more zeros than a NASA launch sequence. And finally, it didn't take much time for the Zimbabwean dollar to be wiped out from the world. And the same happened to Venezuela. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. Rich, right? Wrong. Yes, Venezuela is supposed to be rich since it has more oil reserves than any country in the world. But as oil prices dropped and corruption ran wild in the system, the country couldn't attain its aspirations, and the government printed money to keep people happy, which led to nothing but skyrocketing prices. The shelves got emptied and people fled the country. Even with oil, Venezuela couldn't print its way to prosperity. So what's the real solution? It's not about printing money, it's about creating value. When governments invest in education, they're building human capital. An educated population is more innovative, adaptable, and productive. That's the engine of future industries. Infrastructure like roads, energy, and the internet connects people to markets and opportunities. Without it, even the best ideas stall. And of course, innovation drives efficiency and growth. By funding research, supporting startups, and protecting intellectual property, governments help new ideas become real products, jobs, and exports. And let's not forget business. It is the heartbeat of any economy. When small and large businesses grow without corruption, they create jobs, pay taxes, and build resilience. And of course, this approach doesn't create overnight miracles, but it builds strong, self-sustaining economies that lift people out of poverty for good. Instead of flooding the system with worthless currency, it floods the country with skills, jobs, and real opportunities. And that is how long-term prosperity is made, not with paper, but with purpose. After World War II, both Japan and South Korea were devastated. Cities were bombed out, economies shattered, and millions left with nothing. But instead of reaching for the printing press, their governments reached for long-term solutions. They invested heavily in education, turning generations of children into engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs. Most importantly, they focused on industrial development. They backed manufacturing, supported exports, and embraced technology. Companies like Toyota, Sony, Samsung, and Hyundai were at the forefront of this revolution. They didn't appear overnight, they were nurtured through decades through strategy. Rather than flooding the economy with paper, these countries planted the seeds of productivity. And that is how war-torn nations Japan and South Korea turned into global economic giants with strong currencies, world-class industries, and high standards of living. And that proves a powerful truth: sustainable growth isn't printed, rather it is earned. Stacks of cash alone can't build a good life. When governments print excessive money without backing it with real productivity, they aren't creating value, they're just inflating numbers. People may feel richer at first, but if prices skyrocket, then money becomes meaningless. So the next time someone says, "Why don't we just print more money?" it's a dangerous shortcut to disaster. Real wealth always takes work and wisdom. At the end of the day, what good is $1 billion if there's nothing to buy, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's all for today. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more. Until we meet again.